Hello and welcome to E15, the program that daily examines burning issues concerning Nigeria's general elections through the analysis of topical issues by informed journalists. I am Veronica Onuchi. Reports have it that the Ondo State Deputy Governor Alhaji Ali Olanusi has dumped the People's Democratic Party, that's PDP, for the rival All Progressives Congress APC in the state. Now, according to a statement by Olanusi, he decamped to the APC where justice, fairness, equity and democratic liberty reigns. And in less than 48 hours from now, Nigerians will march to the polls to make a decision that will determine who leads the country in the next 4 years. On the program today, we will look at the SWOT analysis of the two major contenders in this presidential election, that is, General Muhammadu Buhari of the APC and the incumbent President Goodluck Jonathan of the PDP. And we will also look at the issue of electoral violence and controversial deployment of soldiers for the elections. These are the issues we shall be looking at on today's program. Let's take a break and we'll be back shortly. Stay with us.
It's no boring talk. It's a sneak peek into the lives of the people who make the news.
I don't smoke. I don't drink. I've stopped womanizing.
It's all tales and confessions. It is the Sunday interview on the news.
The damage that has been done to this country is great.
Do you want to go backward? No!
The time ticks. The nation awaits its next general elections. Do you have your PVC? Ensure you do to exercise your franchise during the elections. It's your right. It's your duty.
Remember that the change that is upon us can only be done with our voters' card.
Welcome back. As usual, I am not alone in the studio. I have with me Haruna Abib, welcome once again, and Majid Jamio, and I also have Babajide Utitoju. Thanks for joining me on the program. Now, we'll start with the SWOT analysis of both candidates. Now, these two candidates have been in power, and Nigerians have experienced them, known their strengths, and I could add their weaknesses. Now, what would these bring to bear as Nigerians go to the polls? I'll start with you, Aruna.
Well, I think it's good for us to let's define their time in power. Buhari was there for just 20 months. He was invited when the military struck in 1983. You know, he was invited to come and be the head of state, which he did. And he was removed through another coup in 1995 after just 20 months. But the current president, Goodluck Jonathan, has been there for more than 5 years. Right? More than 5 years now. So Nigerians have the opportunity of looking at what he can do. If he has provided leadership in the past 5 years. 4 years ago, he won election squarely, landslide. People were a bit sympathetic to him, the way he came in, you know. So he won election squarely. This idea of having no shoes, looking so innocent, kneeling down before Adeboye, endeared him to Nigerians, and he won. But 4 years after, Anochi, and that is the issue here now. 4 years after, perusing his time in office, Nigerians have had the opportunity to look at what he can do. You know, and in my view, they are not too comfortable. And that is why the guy is so desperate now, moving up and down, in terms of the economy, in terms of security, in terms of corruption, collapsing infrastructure, and more importantly, providing and demonstrating leadership. So that is why Nigeria has run Yane for an alternative of Buhari, who was there for 20 months. And when he was there, he introduced what is called discipline. Why I guess in discipline? But that was lacking. He fought corruption. He injected a lot of probity into the polity. And Nigerians were very happy with him. And that is why till tomorrow, we have the solid credentials of being someone that is against corruption and a disciplined person. And that is what is playing now for him.
Now, okay, that is your view.
Yeah.
Mojid, are you of the same view?
Yeah, I share Abib's views with one or two additions. Like he said, this election is going to be one of the most keenly contested elections in the annals of Nigeria's history. And all indications point to the fact that we are going to have a very, very keenly contested election, even from the electioneering and from all the posers that we've been having, the kind of heated and animated campaigns. And also, for the first time in the history of Nigeria, we are going to be using technology, so to say, to drive a process which hitherto had been corrupted, I mean, by front-loading, back-loading, and ballot stuffing. This is an election where, with the introduction of the smart card readers and the permanent voters card, we're going to have a new dimension into succession plans and democratic governance in Nigeria. Because in the past, you can just sit down and write results, but with what INEC has put in place, I think I want to say like 70% sure that we are going to have something close to a very credible end result from the process we have seen. And what will determine who wins or loses this election, like Abib said, is the strength and weakness. Then we have an advantage of two key players who have been in power before. And Nigerians can actually decipher from what happened during their tenures. I mean, though Buhari served under a military regime as a jackboot dictator, then he has apologized about that. But he also took responsibility for all his actions and inactions, and those actions that were even done on his behalf then. So this is going to be a turning point. But what will basically determine who wins this election, where I would disagree a bit with Habib, is it's not about the level of poverty or employment or unemployment, which ordinarily should be the basis for which people will go out and vote. But people are going to vote on the basis of whether you're a Christian or a Muslim, or whether you are from the south or the north. That is what will form most of the decision that will be taken by those who actually vote.
But I'm sure people have gone beyond religion this time around.
A lot of people will still vote out, but then what will also come into play is the figures as it stands. From what INEC released as at I think Monday, we have about 56 million registered voters that have collected their
card-carrying voters.
Yeah, card-carrying voters that are ready to go out of the 68 million. And if you could remember, in 2011, we had 73 million people who registered, and the 73 million were eligible. But at the end of the day, we had just about 40 million people voting. But in this instance, we have 56 million people that have actually collected their PVCs. So, but one other interesting factor is the way the collection has been skewed. We have a situation where we have 17 states in the south. And those 17 states in the south, we have 24 million people that have collected their PVCs in the 17 states.
I need to get Jide's thoughts on this question, because I know he is itching to say something. What new dimension, like Mojid said, do you see playing out as Nigerians go to vote in less than 48 hours, looking at the fact that these two candidates have been in power before?
Yes, I think their record of performance, records of performance will have a lot to say in how people vote. Just as my friends have said, President Jonathan has had about 6 years when we consider the fact that he inherited the dying days of the late President Yaradua. So he actually came to power in 2009, May 2009, when Yaradua died. And he's had 4 years of his own, you know, added to that. So that's 6 years. 6 years, by my own estimation, is enough to make a big difference. And if you've had 6 years and you've not made a big difference, it will be difficult for people to want to give you 4 more years, you know, because at the end of the day, if he wins the election, he will have had 10 years, you know, as president of Nigeria. There is no civilian ruler in Nigerian history who has had that privilege. So that will be a record in itself. But the issue is, are Nigerians so happy about the 6 years of President Jonathan's rule? My answer is, they are not so happy. I don't want to say yes, they are not happy, because that will sound subjective. Of course, there are many people who will be ready to go to war with President Jonathan, even blindfolded. It's the nature of our politics, like Majid said, for people to ignore what ought to be natural electoral issues, campaign issues, and focus on the mundane. And the politicians have not helped matters because they've refused to focus on the issues. Generally, it's been a season of name-calling, a season of exchanging of brickbats, a season of violence, such that even peace pacts have made little or no meaning, you know, to Nigerians, such that even President Barack Obama is so worried that he had to address Nigerians as if he were addressing Americans. So, going back to the question, I think that the records of performance of both presidents, many people will be, of both leaders, many people will be looking at their records keenly to take a decision. And I've seen a lot of people who are Igbos, who are Yoruba, who are as passionate for Buhari as even the Northerners. Even though the reality is, the Northerners are a lot hungrier for this than other people. That's why you see that the rate of collection up there is high. You see, people get frustrated trying to pick their PVCs. But because in the North, the people are self-motivated, they are determined, you know, to ensure that change happens. You can see that it's that determination that has propelled them to actually be far ahead of this part of the country in terms of PVC collection. And in my view, that will have an impact on how the outcome of the election. But just as Majid said again, this is a very, very close election. It's an election that could go either way. I've seen all kinds of permutations, and my honest submission, and knowing also that in the third ward, many funny things happen on election day. My submission is that it's going to be a keenly fought election. Maybe voter turnout on election day is what will determine who eventually wins.
Of course. Now, still speaking or talking about impacts, this election, as we know, could have been done February 14th, 6 weeks extension. Who, in your view, was, or which of the candidates, still talking about both candidates, was most favored by this extension, in your view?
Yeah, you see, the momentum for the team was abruptly postponed. It was on the side of Buhari. And the reason given by some of the agencies responsible for the postponement, to me, was not genuine. The election was postponed ostensibly to slow down the momentum of Buhari for another 6 weeks. But if you ask me, I don't think it has worked. And yes, the election may be keenly contested, but I don't think it's either way. Based on what is on ground and my experience of reporting politics in Nigeria, it will be magical for President Jonathan to be elected. Based on what is on ground and calculations that Muhammadu has just done, because if it's ratio 60-40, north and south. Yes, the northern people are more enthusiastic in the Buhari ascendancy, but equally the southwest. Lagosians, in my view, are for the first time in my political politics, Lagosians are more interested in this change. Yorubas are also interested. They are also in the train. They have led the station. So if you say the north, the north because it's money from the north, but equally, this noise, you see, is becoming louder. This change is becoming louder because of the southwest involvement. Buhari has been contesting, for goodness sake. What has changed? What has changed is that the emergence of APC has animated the political atmosphere and make Buhari emergence as president inevitable. And this is the first time in political history, and we have the north and the southwest coming together. This is the first time. What we'll be having is the north and the south coming together. First, second republic, third republic. But this time around, and that is why people are afraid. So if you look at what is on ground, yes, clearly contested in court, but in my view, Buhari is the man to beat. It's the man to beat. If you look at the northeast, APC will win northeast. Look at the northwest. APC is likely to win the northwest. This is where the votes are. Then the southwest. Look at Lagos. Okay. Look at Oyo. Look at Ogun. No, I'm alive. We are
coming to that.
So to me, it may be keenly, but then
we are coming to that. We are still looking at the impact of the 6 weeks extension. At some point, Jide was nodding in agreement to what you were saying. So, do you agree that this 6 weeks did not bring down the momentum people had, or the drive people had towards bringing about which candidate, their desired candidate for these elections?
No, your question was, who has benefited the most?
Who has benefited, yeah.
Without a doubt, it is President Jonathan who has benefited the most. If you asked me this question 7 weeks ago, how the election will be won and lost, I will have given you a very straight answer. That look, this election is not going to be close. The reason why we think this election will be close now is because of the gains that the president has made during this time.
When you say gains, what do you mean?
You see, if they've had crisis in some states, that this has afforded them opportunity to resolve. You can, if you are following the Nigerian politics, you will see that there have been even some defections in some states from the PDP, I mean from the APC to the PDP. Before then, some of those defections were not happening.
And there's also been defections from the PDP to the APC.
Yes, yes. But because the president has targeted some states that he needs to win. I'm talking about Adamawa, for example. Adamawa, the president has worked hard on Adamawa state. He needs to win Adamawa and Taraba. If he doesn't win those two states, there's no way he can win the election. He needs to win 2 of those northeast states. So he's given his time and energy to campaigning in those places, to having meetings. You know, even when they slept there, he spoke to people. And we had some defections in the last few days from Adamawa state, from the APC to the PDP. The nature of politics in Nigeria is that whether you like it or not, even if maybe a deputy governor is ineffectual, nobody respects him. If he defects some days to election, that's the kind of signal that he sends.
Absolutely.
That's why Anamechi was not excited that his deputy resigned. He wasn't excited, and his speech demonstrated that clearly, that he wasn't expecting this to happen. So he could have said, no, let him go. Some of us will say, no, he has no electoral value, let him go. But the real people who understand politics, who know that sometimes, look, you can just keep people for their nuisance value. Will not just say, oh, this person has left, he should go. You know, because somehow those who are people can read all kinds of meanings. Say, maybe there's crisis in their camp. Maybe that's why it's leaving. You know, all of these things. We don't belong in their inner cycle to know what happens. Sometimes we can actually misread or even exaggerate what is going on in their camps. The reality is everyone has seen that somebody has benefited from this postponement. And the reality is that it is the president who has benefited the most.
Your view anyway.
There's no, of course, it's my view. It's my view that he has.
It has to be his view.
It's my view that he has. That's why the question is mine.
Because the president has a lot of cash to work with.
The question is, if this election had been held on February 14th, would you have said that it would be close?
No, of course. I mean,
that is the reality.
Yeah,
the momentum. You see, the momentum that the Buhari campaign had was slowed down. No doubt about it. And in fact, they had to take a 3-week break. They were not campaigning for 3 weeks, and then they came back. Even adverts that were meant to run on what's it called, TV, the advert Baron says, slow down. Don't run those adverts on now until you get approval. So all of this have a way of affecting this. Yes. So, and the other man he knew that he was fighting a lost battle at the time, no doubt about it. There was no need. Look, the soldiers that we had could have handled the war in the Northeast, but they had to find a reason to postpone the election, which they got. They couldn't have done all of that without a desire to gain advantage, no matter how little. That is the thing.
So, was that advantage gained?
I won't say that advantage has been gained, because if you look, see me, I always talk from the point of view of statistics and how it affects elections. And if you look at it, and I'll give you a comparison. We have 5.8 million registered voters in Lagos. And we say Lagos is cosmopolitan, it's a big state, 20 million population, but then we have 5.8 million registered voters, out of which only 3.7 million are eligible. That, I mean, those who have collected their PVCs in Lagos, they are just 3.7 million. And look at a state like Kano, with 4.9 million registered voters. They have, I mean, more than 4.2 million people have collected PVCs in Kano, and they are good to go, they are ready. So, for Jonathan to come and be sleeping in Lagos, I don't think it's been...
sharing dollars.
Yes, I don't think it's been... Well, I want to know whether I share dollars.
Because we didn't see that, so we can't just say.
Yes, I doubt if that strategy will work for Jonathan on election day, because you can almost predict where the 4.2 million votes in Kano will go to. And if you also look at the voting pattern, we have the Northwest, where we have 17.2 million eligible voters. Registered voters in the Northwest, out of which only less than 1 million didn't collect PVC. We are talking about 16 million people who are ready to go in the Northwest, and that's Buhari's area of core competence, where he has comparative advantage. And if you look at Southwest, for example, we have...
We're meant to talk about this later in the...
Yeah, he already gotten into what we are to talk about later now.
Okay, which means I'm fast forwarding.
You're going ahead of what we are to discuss now. We know that the election postponed for 6 weeks was as a result of the security challenge we had, Boko Haram.
According to them.
According to them. Now, we saw how Jonathan has fought Boko Haram so far. Now, my question is, how would it have been if Buhari was in power and he was to use the democratic institutions to fight these people?
How? I don't understand what I say.
No. We saw how we are trying to evaluate their strengths and their weaknesses. How, in your view, do you think Buhari would have fought this war against Boko Haram, looking at how Jonathan has fought them?
In the last 6 weeks.
Don't forget that one of the main problems this man had, Jonathan, was his inability to secure Nigeria. That was one of the sore points of his presidency. For the first time, about 16 local governments. Am I right? 14 local government, were taken away by terrorists. And his inability to fight back, to demonstrate leadership, was one of the problems he had. So with these 6 weeks, thank God, they've been able to take over almost all the local governments, and Nigerians are now safe. But I'm not too sure that will make any impact, that will be consequential. And you would think of Jonathan. And Buhari said something in London. That is why I'm not too comfortable. That is debatable that if you say the president has gained from the extension. Yes, of course, he has the resources to spend. He's in charge of the treasury. All the instruments of state and power have been used to pursue his ambition. ABC has none of that. But if it has impacted on people's mind, I do not know. And what he said something in London that Nigerian soldiers are one of the best in the world. Give them correct ammunition. Give them the right motivation. They perform. It's to me a minus, for Nigeria to rely on the Chadian forces, Nigerian forces, and domestic Cameroonians.
And some mercenaries.
And mercenaries to secure our border. And that to me is a minus. It's not too good enough for us. So I will have the record of Buhari, being in the same position with Jonathan, would have done better.
Your view?
Absolutely.
Majid?
Yes, I think I want to agree with Abib in the sense that why wait for the 11th hour? What we can actually achieve in 5, it was needless for us to postpone an election because of insurgency in 14 local governments out of 774. I keep saying something. The date for the American election was fixed in 1894. And till date, it has never changed. And they didn't even put a particular date. They said the American election will hold the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. And it has remained so. Nothing has changed that. Even when they had civil war or during the World War, the elections have been holding. So we had 4 years to prepare for an election. We have a government who deliberately underfunded INEC. And if I would say, who are those who actually, INEC is part of those who actually gained with the extension. Because at a point, INEC had to use, they had to go cap in hand, begging for their fund to be released for an election that we all know was planned 4 years ago. It's a 4-year cycle. So INEC was incapacitated in terms of funds in the first instance. But then if you also look at it, between February 14 and now, we have had about, we have had some gains in terms of the number of people who have been able to collect their PVCs and the number of cards they have been able to print. So I think now we are good to go. And the extension has helped. But then I don't think it should ever happen in Nigeria again that we have a situation where we have to postpone elections for whatever reasons. I think it's a slap on our face as Nigerians, and I think it diminishes us as a country. The Americans are now, it's like we are holding the whole world hostage just because we want to hold an election. We have seen the president of Ghana, who is the ECOWAS chairman, coming in to talk to the principal actors. Obama started with Kerry. Kerry came in, was talking to us. Now we are now like babies. Like motor park touts. That you now have to be gauging. I hope this guy will not misbehave if he goes out there. Things like that for a population of 160 million people plus. And I think it's not too good for us as a nation.